All right, let's get started. So, hello everyone, and welcome to this virtual University of Alabama School of Social Work Alumni Panel. We have three great alumni here today who will be talking about their educational journey and social work careers. So, first, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Aubrey Cube, the academic advisor for our MSW program and coordinator of career services for the school. I graduated with both my BSW and MSW from here at UA and immediately began working in the school after graduation. I'm also an adjunct instructor in our BSW program and have taught both of our intro classes, my favorite being our Fields of Social Work class. It's so much fun getting to learn new niche like areas of social work and introduce the students to all the different options they have for work post-grad. These alumni panels have become one of my favorites to host since we get to showcase different paths for our students and what they've taken in the social work journey. And no two social workers' journeys are the same, yet they're all just so meaningful in different ways. So on that note, let's get started with introductions from our panelists. So first I want to ask Brad Ellis, who graduated from our MSW in 2014 and now works with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Brad, can you tell us about your journey to becoming a social worker and how you ended up in that current role?
Sure. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. Roll Tide, everybody. Um, well, I'll do my best to kind of give an abbreviated version. Going back to high school, I'm from Fort Payne, Alabama. If you would have asked me at 16, 17 years old what a social worker was, I probably wouldn't have been able to give you a good answer. Growing up, I was just like a lot of young boys in Alabama grow up. I was about athletics and sports. So I attended Huntington College in Montgomery, Alabama, where I played football. And again, there was no social work thoughts at that time, but I got into education and coaching and ended up back at Huntington College and actually had the opportunity to start graduate school. So that led to a decision to start my master's in public administration. And I may get into that a little bit later, but that kind of sparked the really the interest in public service. So had some family situations happen. So got out of coaching and actually started with the state of Alabama with the SNAP program, or food stamps, as many people know it as. So that was kind of my introduction into government social services and the SNAP program. Really kind of really enjoyed it and enjoyed serving, enjoyed giving back, and I kind of came into it at a time where the agency was really adopting some technology initiatives, and kind of timed up with I guess my age and demographic that I came through, that I was really able to kind of grab onto those. Did that for a couple of years, and then was approached by recruiters from the University of Alabama talking about the distance learner program. That combined with I believe is the Title IV stipend. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. That combined with public service loan forgiveness, with all of those kind of coming together during that time period, I felt like it was an opportunity I just had to take. So that's kind of when I started my education with specifically in the social work field. Worked with DHR, got into child welfare, TANF, if you're familiar with that program. I worked with DHR up until 2016. Started supervising. I supervised in Jefferson County DHR. It's a pretty difficult location, but I did child welfare ongoing, and I supervised a group of individuals that worked closely with the court system. I had 10 subordinates at that time, and I believe that may have been about 2016. That is when, like many social workers, I hit a wall. I hit a wall right there and needed a little bit of a change of direction. That's when I moved over to started working with justice involved individuals, and started working at Hayes State Prison and in Tryon, Georgia. Started doing some individual therapy through BetterHelp.com. So I dabbled in the private sector a little bit. So that brings us up to about 2018. I came back with the state of Alabama and was working with the Bureau of Pardons and Paroles. And at that time, I was asked to start a day reporting center for probationers and parolees in Marshall County, Alabama. And that was essentially all the guidance I was given. So started that program with another law enforcement officer, managed that program as the clinical director of that program for a couple of years. And then opportunity came up with the VA, and I started working with the HUD-VASH program for homeless veterans back in 2022. And I have transitioned since to other programs, but that's kind of I guess, a small summary of my education and experience.
Thank you so much, Brad. Even just that, we're seeing so many different areas of social work, so many different fields that you can hit and how they all kind of come together too. So thank you. Our second panelist is Kennedy Zachery, who is a recent 2024 graduate from our MSW program. She also received her BSW from here at UA. In 2024, she founded her own nonprofit organization, Pop Up and Serve. Kennedy, can you tell us a little bit about you and your journey in social work and the work that your nonprofit does?
Yes, thank you for having me. It feels good to be back, like I never left. Um, yeah, like she said, I graduated in 2024 with my master's. I did the advanced study program, so I graduated 2023, then went through for the extra year. I was able to work in DC during graduate school, so that was really cool doing my field placement up there. But just thinking about my journey in social work, I actually didn't want to be a social work major. I wanted to be a psychology major because I wanted to be a therapist. I was like, I had a therapist in high school, and her name was Dr. Joy, and she just radiated so much joy. Like her name, it just fit so perfectly. And I was like, I want to be Dr. Joy 2.0. And then I went to orientation, and I saw the classes that you had to take to be a psychology major. It's like, oh. And so, a family friend who was with me at orientation at the time, she was like, you should consider social work. They like do like DFACs. Like, no, no, I don't want to do that. She's like, just try it. And so I tried it, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the school. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the profession. Just knowing that it's so much that you can do with social work, that you don't have to just be limited to, as I thought, like DFACs or CPS or anything like that. Knowing that you can really do basically everything, perform surgery. It was like, okay, that's great, and so I love it. It's truly everything. It was a perfect fit for me. And so after I graduated last year, it's hard to get a job in this economy. It's really very difficult. Like the job market is not great. And so my goal was to move back to DC. Like I had done my field placement up there that spring. I was like, oh, I'm gonna apply and I'm gonna work on the Hill or like for some grassroots organization up there. I can do all these things. I kept applying for jobs, like to the point, y'all, I had left my stuff in DC. Like I live in Atlanta. I left my stuff in DC, and I was like, oh, I'll be back. Like it's fine, I'll be back. I'm not back. I, in fact, am not back. I ended up getting a job at Big Brothers Big Sisters Metro Atlanta, match support specialist, where I basically do case management for the different matches that we have. But my aunt, who I was just complaining about life so much to her, 'cause I was like, girl, like this is not what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be like on the front lines doing all these things. Like I have a passion for like community organizing and like program development and creating all these different initiatives. Like I just love that type of stuff, right? And she was like, well, you don't need to do that like in your like actual career. Like you can do your own thing on the side. Like your day job can be one thing, but you can do something else. What do you mean? And she encouraged me to start my nonprofit. So actually on November 1st, 2024, my nonprofit became incorporated. So it's just been a year. And one of my main programs that I do, it's called Help a Sister Out. It's actually something that I started in college when I was an RA. I was in the Blunt program. I hosted a toiletry drive in the dorm in March, and it became like honestly bigger than I could have ever imagined. The first year in the dorm, I got like $250, and then also the residents donated toiletries, and I gave to Turning Point. I ended up working at Turning Point for undergrad, and then the next March I did it again and raised $750 in toiletries from the students again. And then last year, I raised $2,000 in DC and gave them to two shelters up there. And then this past year, I actually made 300 toiletry kits. I called them empowerment packs, but toiletry kits. And then I also gave bulk, like full size toiletries to like 5 different shelters, including still Turning Point because I was special. So yeah, I'm actually preparing for Help a Sister Out next year. Oh no, can y'all hear me? It's because I have my AirPods in. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna take it after I finish. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of preparing for Help a Sister Out 2026. It'll be my fifth one ever. So my second one under my nonprofit, and then I also have an initiative called Kennedy's Closet, where where I collect clothes and shoes and bags and purses for.
I'm sorry, Kennedy. You might want to put your AirPods back in.
Oh,
I think they're still connected, so they're still trying to listen to you.
can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had to turn my Bluetooth off. I'm sorry. I have an initiative called Kennedy's Closet where I collect clothes and shoes and like bags and everything for women transitioning out of homelessness back into like rebuilding their lives in a sense. So like if you like need clothes for like a job interview or like church or something, that's what I do as well. So it's been a journey. It's been a time. I was able to partner with different brands to get different toiletries and stuff. So hoping that'll be able to continue. But I just love it. I love it so much.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kennedy. So our final panelist of the afternoon is going to be Zac Boros. Zac graduated from our BSW program in 2020, and then they went on to receive their MSW in 2021 from Washington University in St. Louis. They're currently a student at Western University working towards their Master of Arts, focusing on theory and criticism. So Zac, could you tell us a bit about your social work journey and where you're at now with continuing your education?
Yes, hello, I'm Zach. So I graduated in 2020 during the pandemic with the BSW program, and I applied to get my MBA at WashU in St. Louis. And luckily they gave me enough money and scholarship. So I was able to go there. I finished that advanced standing about a year later. I stayed in St. Louis for a little bit. I did my internship in in Tuscaloosa, the first one in my BSW program at DCH Hospital. And then I did my second internship at the major medical center in St. Louis called BJC / Barnes Jewish Hospital. And so I was in palliative medicine, helping folks like how with trying to decide their plans in their health journey and see kind of what was happening. And with their health and how to navigate the resources and stuff. And then after that, I worked in hospice for a year, which was super interesting. I got to learn a lot about the community, about St. Louis, about people, about death and dying, and it was really cool. After that, I spent about 6 months in Washington, D.C., working for the U.S. Senate, and that was interesting. It was with a youth program, um, and then I did that for about 6 months, for about a semester for the program, and then and I came back to St. Louis. I worked in HIV/AIDS case management essentially through WashU School of Medicine. So I was able to work with folks who were navigating the complex health systems while having HIV. So it's a very interdisciplinary, intersectional type of social work, I feel like, because it integrates both like the medical side, but also the very personal and vulnerable side that people have to deal with in their personal life when it comes to both the other things that they deal with alongside HIV, but also the medical implications of HIV. And then, for the last couple of years, I have been really leaning into the more academic side of social work and theory in terms of why do things happen, or why do we conceive of things the way that we conceive of things, especially in the field of pain and suffering and social work. And Why do we live in systems that perpetuate its own violence, essentially? And so, when I was in the BSW and MSW program, I really liked research. I know that's like not a popular thing, but I really do like research. So I started pivoting, and I used my free time to read up, to look into like theory, philosophy, and stuff, because I really want to understand on a deep level why these things were happening. And so I pivoted again, and now I'm in Canada, where I was born, and I will be completing my degree and hopefully my PhD, and then try to combine the different um, fields that I'm working with to kind of understand social work and what it can do and how we can reconceive of issues so that we can help people better.
Thank you, Zach. That's amazing. I love seeing all the different journeys that people are taking in the social work world. We all have different things that we want to contribute to the world and experience. And so I think our panelists today have such a wide variety of things we can talk about today. So now that we've gotten an overview of everyone's journey, I want us to dive into some more detailed questions for each of our panelists. I'll start with Brad, just so we can go back in that order. Brad, you have another master's degree in public administration. Do you find it helpful or complementary in your social work roles at all?
Sure, of course. I listen to Kennedy and Zac talk so much about navigating systems and helping our clients move through these complicated systems. There's so many times in my experience now where you're almost treating an entity, a government agency, like a client itself. It has problems, it has challenges, it has strengths, and sometimes we are actually trying to make the systems change while we're helping our clients kind of navigate those systems, so those systems can be better prepared to for our future clients. But on several occasions, like for example, when I was with the state of Alabama Bureau of Pardons and Paroles, I was asked to start a day reporting center, and they wanted therapeutic services, they wanted educational services, of course, vocational services, and there is no other. If you could imagine, I know Kennedy and Zac can imagine no other social worker clinician being around you, being there for guidance. It's you. So that public administration, that program implementation, program development, uh, policy, all of my work with policy and public administration, human resource management. As you grow and expand a new program, you're going to need staff. So you get into some of these administrative things that I guess just kind of a foundational level of a social work that that public admin has been very helpful. And then just navigating systems. In my current role, I'm the program coordinator for a program that's called Healthcare for Reentry Veterans, and the primary role is to connect incarcerated veterans to VA healthcare services. That's kind of the basis of it. But in order to make contact with these veterans, there's going to have to be some type of navigation between two federal agencies that do not organically work together. There's no system in place for these two agencies to flow information. So you, as a social worker, create these things, and sometimes you can create systems that are so valuable they do become standard practice of both agencies, and I think that is some of the most lasting impact you can have as a social worker, and especially in a government agency, is to create something of so much value that goes beyond your stay in that position, and something that can last.
Yeah, Thank you. With that, and you kind of started going this way, with that, can you talk a little bit about how policy and administration kind of intersect a little bit with your direct social work practice and your role specifically in the VA office?
All right, can you repeat that again?
Yeah. So when you have this background in like policy and administration, can you talk a little bit about how you kind of see this trickle down in your current work in the VA office? How that
Well, I mean,
affects you there? Yeah.
well, that's something we're experiencing right now. Uh, when it comes to grants and access to certain services that become standard and become critical when working with homeless veterans. When we're in a difficult governmental dynamic, or when there's challenges like that, yeah, a good foundational education about the way policy works and the way you can affect policy. Like, for example, things like denials for services. If I'm working with a veteran that's homeless, and there is a backlog or a waiting list to get veterans housed. I know it's really easy for many social workers to become discouraged in a situation like that and stop the referral process. A good understanding of policy and the way it works will help give you the understanding that no, you have to continue the work and continue to develop this accrual of denials, because these denials can be evidence of need. And that's how you can affect policy. I know that probably wasn't a direct answer to your question, but that was just something that came to mind as far as just having that understanding of how your day-to-day action can really impact policy.
And I think it's really important for social workers to really focus on macro work as well, because they don't realize that even though they want to do micro work, it's the macro that's affecting everything that's affecting their clients. With that, you talked a little bit about this, how it's affecting the VA specifically, but are there any other unique challenges or opportunities that you've encountered working with your veteran population?
Yes. Well, I thought about this question. When it comes to challenges, nothing stood out. If anything that has stood out to me is the similarities in working with non-veteran justice involved individuals compared to justice involved veterans. The similarities were the things that were surprising. Now, as far as the opportunities, wow. Working with a justice involved individual without health care is very different than working with a justice involved individual with health care. So in terms of the opportunity, yes, working with veterans where we're able to marry all of these VA healthcare services and programs and mental health and addiction treatment services and residential services, how you can kind of marry that into reentry plans, to any type of treatment plan, whether it be occupational, coming out of homelessness, coming out of an incarceration, coming out of a stint in a mental health facility. All of these things are just amazing opportunities that I was not utilizing as much as I should have. On the few occasions I was working with veterans, but now seeing these amazing opportunities that veterans, as a non-veteran, I see, and as a person that's paid for healthcare my whole working career, I see how amazing and how valuable this can be for veterans if they tie to it. Now, another unique thing about veterans is their propensity to not express concerns. So there's a lot of coaching when it comes to veterans, when it comes to, resilience and grit and stick-to-itiveness are all amazing, great qualities that are valuable. But when it comes to when it comes to accessing services, when you need and when you desire, expressing those type of qualities, I got it, I can push through, I can make it. Sometimes that creates some distance between the individual and the service with that type of language to providers.
Thank you for that thoughtful response, Brad.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I have a couple of questions for our recent grad, Kennedy. So Kennedy, first, what motivated you? You went into this a little bit in your introduction, but what motivated you to start your nonprofit so early in your career? What kind of inspired you there?
Yeah, so I did know in the grand scheme of things, I wanted to start a nonprofit one day, but I don't know why I was like, oh yeah, when I'm 40 with kids, that'd be the best time to do that. Like, no, probably not. And so it just kind of like happened that way. I think that it was all very, okay, I'm big on my faith, so I think it was all very like divinely orchestrated to work out that way. Because even with the work that I'm able to do, the amount of things that I'm able to get done for myself on a daily basis probably would not happen if I did not have the job, the actual day job that I have at Big Brothers Big Sisters, because they're so flexible. So I think it just was like the perfect time. Like I knew what I wanted to do. I knew like the job that I really wanted that I didn't get. I wanted to be a program coordinator for the Hip Hop Caucus because I just love the Hip Hop Caucus. And they wanted somebody to like go for all their initiatives. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And I can do my own thing as well. So it just kind of like worked out that way. I didn't get that job, but I'm able to do kind of my own thing over here. So I was like, why not? You know?
Yeah, it was your moment. It was your moment.
It was my time to shine.
So, what were the biggest hurdles kind of in launching? You just had your 1 year anniversary. So what were the biggest hurdles when you were launching and like as you've begun to like try to sustain this programming in your organization?
Um, Definitely getting that 501(c)(3. That was a lot. And it wasn't even like I think it was just because I don't know anybody that owns a nonprofit, so it's not like I had like guidance, it was me and Chat GPT, okay, asking questions, trying to figure it but just trying to figure out because there's like two different ones that you could get. So just trying to like really see what I needed and what works best for me, making sure I filled out the paperwork correctly because if you like mess it up, you still have to pay, you don't get a refund. So it's like all the things. That was definitely one. But then two, just in general, really sitting down with myself, seeing what I wanted to do because I had always known that I wanted to start a nonprofit, like I said, but I didn't really know what the vision was. And I don't really think that I got clear on the vision until like a month ago. So it's like, so even though I knew like I had come up with like a mission statement, it's we uplift communities through purpose-driven projects over here. That's our thing. But I didn't really know what that actually like tangibly looked like. So I knew I was gonna do help a sister out because that just makes sense. But like outside of that, I was like, okay, that's only March. What else am I gonna like? It's a whole like calendar year, you know? But things just started really coming like into line. Like when I was doing Help a Sister Out, I ended up, long story short, I went to this beauty supply store and they gave me all this shampoo and conditioner and edge control and hand sanitizer and stuff. It was great. But they also gave me 6 boxes of clothes. And I was like, what the heck? Like, who does that? And so that's how I knew like I needed to do like the clothing thing after that. So just kind of keep it going. All that to say, I think the one of the hardest things outside of like the business part, but like 501(c)(3, was just really sitting down and asking myself like what I wanted to do and like how I wanted to help people because I just love helping people. And so I could do that in so many different ways. But yeah, coming to the conclusion that I really am supposed to be servicing like homeless people or like people that are in shelters and things like that, like really coming to terms like with that has been challenging because I just want to do everything under the sun.
And you've given the way you're talking about it, you've also given yourself the flexibility to always do new things and try out new
Mm.
opportunities. So, with that and exploring other fields, I know you like that you have the flexibility in your current role with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and that helps you kind of maintain your time with Pop Up and Serve. But do you see yourself exploring any other fields of social work in the future? Is there something you're interested in that you haven't been able to try yet?
I really don't know because it's so broad. Like you could literally do anything. And so it just depends, I think, on where this goes. Like if it I have no idea. Like If it goes the way that I think it's gonna go, probably not. But I would like to teach at some point. I do think that would be cool. I would love to come back and teach as like a social work professor. But outside of that, I don't know. I don't think so.
It's a very rewarding experience to teach. It's very
Yeah.
wonderful to talk
Yeah,
to
you really like touched
new
my heart
social
when you was like you
workers.
teach the 100 class. I would love to do that.
Yes,
Like,
it's my favorite one to teach. Being able, I always bring in a lot of guests that are alumni or not, just social workers in Alabama that want to talk about the work that they're doing. Let
mhm.
students know that it's not just DHR. It's not just working with
Yeah.
services.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite classes. That's why I was like, oh, I think I need to stick with this because he brought Morion was my
Mhm.
professor. Oh, love that man. And he brought in so many people, and I was like, what? Like, that is crazy. So
I
yeah.
know you talked about you were originally going to do psychology. I think a lot of social work majors start the same way. You don't realize
Yeah.
social work is an option as a major. Is that something you can focus on
Right.
studying? And then you hear about it once. People are like, if you do this, you can still do everything that you wanted to do before, but
Yeah.
you're also given a wide variety of
And
options.
it's so
That
funny
doesn't
because
work out.
I tried to convince all my friends to be social work majors. I was like, because they wanted to be like psychologists and stuff. I was like, y'all could be social work major and then still do therapy. Like, it's fine. Like,
Yeah, you can
yeah.
get your MSW after any undergraduate degree
Right. I'm trying to
and
help y'all out, okay,
utilize
with this
it.
1 year
Yeah.
program. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, thank you so much, Kennedy.
yeah.
Moving on, I do have questions for Zac. And Zac, you have a strong background. You mentioned a little bit in hospice and healthcare work. How do you see your current focus in your master's degree in theory and criticism enhancing practical social work interventions? If that's something you've thought about yet.
Yeah, I think, sorry, there's noise coming from behind, so sorry if you can't hear
Okay.
me. But yeah, no, I mean that's working within healthcare and the systems um is what made me kind of question how we conceive of certain things and why certain people are in certain situations, etc. Healthcare, I think, is a very concrete way to see problems, I feel like, because of how structured the healthcare systems are and how bureaucratic they are, and how cut and dry they tend to be with services and what you can do in certain settings, etc. And so, in that kind of situation, I kind of see how people are clients can be viewed as sort of being managed, right? Like in terms of how does society manage people that it deems as in need? And Brad kind of talked about the public policy side, which is kind of what I'm doing, but on a more like theoretical level, or like I guess the philosophy side of that, where I'm trying to actually interrogate why or what in our, everyday lives as people in a society we like consider certain people to be less than and other people not to be less than, and how that actually unfolds in reality in services, and how our society manages need, and how we kind of almost disappear people in for those that are in need or need help or whatever. We kind of, have a blind spot towards it. And I'm trying to understand why that's the case. Why, and of course there's several different ideas I have. But of course, like that, I could go on forever about it. But yeah, that's essentially kind of the gist, is like, how do we actually think we're managing and helping versus what is the reality of the situation, and why is it that, we continue to have suffering in the way that we do? Why do we continue to ignore certain problems even though they may be right in our face? And when I say we, I don't mean, I mean society in general. I mean governance. I mean everybody, like just everyday people. And I think that's the big thing about my work, is that I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to use my experience as a social worker to understand how, because once you start working in it, you kind of see a side of the underworkings of society in a different way. And I think that's kind of what prompted me to be like, okay, like I feel like I'm seeing something that other people aren't seeing. I'm trying to understand why that is and what's the case. And so I think that's what prompted it, is that seeing that, like, okay, I can relate to social workers on this because we both have an understanding. But if, on a systemic level or a macro level, we have to restructure how we think about things or how we approach things, not just from within social work, but on a macro level. How do we even conceive of problems itself?
Absolutely. And these are such important questions. Going off of that, and asking yourself all these questions, where do you see your future work leaning more towards? Do you want to get into academia, policy, or do you want to get back into like a clinical practice type of role with that?
So I think the answer is I don't know. um, and I think like that's um, I love that about it because I have so many options, I feel like. And that's why I feel like I even could go and pivot into this program, is because I know I have the experience of social worker. I have the degrees plural, and I know that I could find a job, and I can add to an organization or to a government agency or whatever, no matter what I do. So I felt like there's no harm in doing what I'm doing. I don't know where it's gonna lead, to be honest, and I think that's the beauty about it, is I don't have to know. I don't have to have a grand plan. And I think people go into, especially social work or other things, with this idea that or not just social work, but every field, where, especially when you're in university, in the thick of it, where you have to have this coherent idea about what it is that you think you're going to be or what you think you're going to do. We have these conceptions and we have this like kind of mold that we think we're going to inhabit. But the truth is that's never going to happen. There is no mold, because as soon as you get to that, what you think you achieved, the 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 race still goes, the race still continues, right? So you're never going to fill a role in any unique way permanently, right? So, and that's how I think about it. And so, like, I feel like for me, I kind of just let go of the idea of having a concrete future plan about stuff. Of course, within reason, of course, I'm going to plan what I need to plan, but not like long-term plans. And I think, I don't know, I encourage anybody to have an open mind about that, especially in social work, because you can do so many things. Like, I know so many people doing clinical work, doing government work, doing policy, working in for mayors of towns. Like, there's literally so many things you can do. So I feel like that's the good thing about social work, as a field, is that you can do it and know that there's so many options. Like, that's the biggest, like, that's what I love about it.
As you said, that's the beauty of it. That is
Mhm.
the beauty of social work. There are so many different things you can do. You can take any undergraduate degree, apply it to with a master's of social work, and do whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
I never thought I would end up in higher education. I came straight out of my MSW doing that. I've always wanted to work with children. I'm not working with children at all, ever.
Right.
These are
Right.
all 18 and up. I'm mostly with graduate students. That's my advising load. Like, I'm working with adults, and that
Mhm.
was not my population that I was working towards.
Right. And I think
But
that's the change, right? Like, I think that's the being open to change, and being open to having your mind or open to being contradicted by your experiences, right? Like, if you have an idea about how something is going to be when you jump into it, it could, you have to be open to knowing that this could be awful, and usually, and admit that, right? Because I feel like social workers or people that work in social services our agencies mirror how our clients are as well. So how we operate within social services also has a similar effect in the way that clients operate with us. And so if we tell clients that you have to be open to change, we equally have to be too, right? So I think like that's the key thing, is that when we work with clients, in a way, we are necessarily working with ourselves, and with other colleagues. And I think that's like the key thing that I've learned.
social work is a field of being open to, you have to be open to continuous learning. The world's changing every day. We have to be
Absolutely.
able to adapt and change with it. And with that, you have gone through this transition from practitioner to student again. How has that been for you this semester?
It's been great. I really do like working directly with people, but I think, like I just said, you have to be open to change. And I think I had this calling to, I guess, leap into the more, I mean, especially at a time when we are told that certain fields like the humanities and other stuff aren't useful or helpful. I think like I passionately disagree with that. And I think that if we are going to have proper interventions in social work, we have to live in a society that people want to live in. And we can't understand that kind of society or theorize that kind of a society that we want to live in unless we have people doing that. And I think like that's a key part. And that's why I feel like, I mean, I followed my interests and it led me to what I'm doing now. And I think I feel like I'm always going to be reflecting on social work. I'm always going to be, I mean, I like already like even in my program, like I stand out. Like I already like so even if you choose to do something else, you're automatically going to stand out if you have a background in social work. And I feel that gives me a leg up on what I'm doing because I have experience that other people just don't.
And that can be applied to our current students too, having come from like you mentioned, a lot of people don't like research. I was able to get through, I think, my research classes pretty easily because of the work that I was actively doing at the time was contributing to that. So I was running an after school program. We had to have evaluations for that program. It was grant funded. So I was doing all of this work in the background of my current job that I was actively applying to my work at the time in the program. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that that can be so extremely helpful. So like having this background, having this knowledge, it really helps you going forward in whatever you want to do, applying these skills, whether it's becoming going into another degree program, whether it's going into a job you didn't necessarily think that you were going to be doing, you can still apply these skills to that situation and you're going to get by. You're going to make it through. You're going to stand out. Social work, like we've continuously said, it's such a wide field with so much different knowledge that you can learn. Our program specifically here at UA for BSW and MSW, we really set you up to go into any field that you might want to do. And thank you all. And I did want to go kind of into some broader questions for all three of you that you can take turns answering. We can go in order, but you all work in pretty different settings. So what lessons from those settings do you think are underrepresented in social work education? And y'all can feel free if you have an answer to just, we don't have to keep going in a circle, but again, what lessons from the settings that you've been in do you think are underrepresented in social work education specifically? I mentioned that we have a very advanced generalist curriculum here at UA. So a lot of times we don't touch specifically on super like niche settings. So could y'all mention maybe something that you might have seen as underrepresented?
Yeah, that's the only flaw that, and I don't want to answer this because that's the only thing that I ever say that I don't like about our school social. But I love the school social work in general. But yes, I definitely feel like it is so generalist. Like it's just like the basics on every area.
Mhm.
And so having started a nonprofit, I would say that I feel like that's definitely not talked about a lot in social work, education specifically. Like it's like, yes, you could work for one, but like what does it look like, first of all, for you to own one? But then also like just in general about like nonprofit management, like in general in social work, that's just not discussed. It's more so like you working at the nonprofit, like doing like whatever you might be doing that is considered your like social work role. But owning the nonprofit is social work, you know what I'm saying? And so I feel like that's definitely something that is missed because so many people like have things that they want to do and businesses they want to start and visions they have for all these things, but it's like, oh, well, I just have a master's in social work. Well, girl, that's like the best degree, you know? So I definitely feel like we could do a little better with that. But yeah, but I also think just in general from UA, like you have to know like what schools or what like programs you're looking at truly because like I would not like having knowing where I am now, like I probably would not have chosen UA knowing where I was going to go in the future, looking back, because I don't feel like I was prepared for what I am currently experiencing as far as like specifics and things like that. But it was still a great program, But there are programs that have like specific, like, oh, you want to work with children, oh, you want to work with individuals, you want to own your own private practice, or you want to own a nonprofit, Like there are schools that have those specific programs. You just have to really do your research and look for them because I've seen them now that I'm out of school. So it's like, so yeah.
Yeah, we had two electives that focused on nonprofits, but as we've gone to a new curriculum, we can only offer so many. So we've moved towards the certificate program. So hopefully that'll be something that students really thrive with in the future.
I guess I'll jump in. I I mean, I know like this um for sure, I know people are so opposed to like the theory side of social work because they're like, oh, it's a practical, um, you're like working on the ground, whatever. But I think I think they're like understanding how systems operate or paradigms, like how people actually conceive of the world from different angles and different perspectives actually helps you align with helps you see your situation and helps you read the situation through a lens that can actually make sense. I think especially because we have um, a lot of people feel very like chaotic, like everything's chaotic right now. I don't know what's going on. And it may feel like we kind of just are running around with our heads cut off and figuring it out. But I think that's where the theory part is most important, is actually when you're least understanding of what's going on, there are ideas out there that can help you patch together and make sense of the situation. And that's not just like macro level, like social stuff, but also a client situation. So, like if you're helping a client navigate through whatever, having examples and ideas about why things can be the way that they are actually helps people be more self-efficacious. It helps people actually take control over what the situation is for themselves and have more autonomy over what's going on. And I think that's really important. But of course, if that's not um, honed in, I guess, we may not make that connection later. And I think that's, I guess, one of the things that I think it's important is the theory side and why and how important it can be. Of course, I don't mean like needing to recall, you don't need to recall all these different things or whatever. But the very act of thinking through things is actually, it develops the patterns and the ways that you think about the world so that it may not seem like in the moment that there's that a theory may guide you, but the very doing and processing of the theory in situations itself creates the knowledge that you'll have later. And I think that's not really honed in. I feel like we kind of pass by theory like it's a necessity, like a necessity where it's like we have to do this, so let's just get through it type thing. And I don't think people understand that like the very way we conceive and think of social work, the very way that we conceive and think of our clients and their situations is grounded in theories. Like it's grounded in how we think about the world and what we think about, you can map out all of these ways that we can approach different problems. But if you don't have the tools to do that, then you're always going to be left questioning why something is happening. So I do think theory, like that kind of stuff, is very important. I mean, not to take up too much time, but I do think when you said about research is important too, because um, people also don't realize that research doesn't have to be like super strict, super like complicated, super whatever. I mean, in social work, of course, there's different ways to do research, different methods, etc. But research is as simple as just asking why, right? It's literally, it doesn't have to be about like this like daunting task of data and stuff like that. It's literally just in our everyday lives. Why is something occurring the way that it's occurring, and how can I figure it out, or how can we figure it out together, right? And I think like when we position research and theory in that way, instead of being like, this is just a big thing that we have to overcome or whatever, I think it actually opens up people to asking more questions while they're social workers, instead of, just taking rules and administration issues and stuff passively. We can actually be like, wait a minute, this isn't adding up, and here's why, right? And I think like that's super important.
Thank you so much, Zach. Yes, that was very thoughtful. Um, Pivoting just a little bit away from like talking about social work education and just kind of going back into your actual fields that you're currently in. How do you all stay resilient and avoid burnout in your work? I know we've had some shifts in careers. And again, we talked about that's the beauty of social work. There's so many different things you could do. If you're getting burnt out in one area, you've got options on where you can move forward. So, how do you all specifically try to avoid that burnout in the work you're doing?
Well, I utilized finding different roles. There's always, especially working in government agencies, there's always a level of need, or some worker that's on leave, or they've terminated a position and they're not backfilling it. So especially early in my career, I was able to use different programs and services just to kind of stay interested and stay vibrant. There was also early in my career, there was kind of a pursuit of the hierarchy, so to speak, sometime. But that went away. Uh, and then really just being a really good time manager. Being a great time manager has been really the biggest key to me avoiding the burnout. I'm not a crisis manager. Uh, and I think a lot of social workers feel like a crisis manager when you come out ready to change the world right here, right now. Um, and there is a right and wrong way to help people. You can help someone the wrong way, get a successful outcome, but it will spend you. You can do it in a way that does lead toward burnout. So I guess just really good attention to time management, and focusing on all the activities outside of the 9 to 5. Um, Continuing my education, continuing to kind of push further with your own knowledge of the field, your own knowledge of the trade, and being a social worker. Um, that's kind of been my most effective ways to stay resilient and avoid burnout. Usually has nothing to do with work, I guess, when it comes down to it.
Thank you, Brad. I know talking about like doing stuff outside of work and making sure you're actively taking care of yourself, even just in our social work 100 class, social work 101 classes, we really push for students that are starting into this field to really go ahead and start focusing on self-care, learning what works best for you. It'll help you throughout your education as you're struggling, like if you're going while you're going throughout all of your classes, maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed with that class practicum kind of aspect. And so just trying to figure out early what works for you, because once you get into this field, as you mentioned, sometimes you feel like a crisis like manager. Like so there's going to be a lot of things that are happening in many areas of social work. A lot of it will be there will be sad things. There will be things that you can't fix, and it's heavy on your heart. And so just finding different ways. I always tell my students, even if it's something you revert back to from your childhood, like what brought you joy then that you can very simply put into place now in your adult life. It may feel kiddish, but it's what brought you joy then. It's simply something that could very easily bring you joy now. So I like, even if it's coloring, writing short stories, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be working to be good at it. It's not something that you should having to like challenge yourself too much with, just something that brings you joy in the moment and can take your mind off things. We really push for people to just start learning those things early and what works best for them. So does anyone else have anything that maybe they do to avoid burnout or just for self-care in general?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is just making sure that you rest, and actually rest when you rest. Because I used to be the person, I don't think I've ever consistently gotten 8 hours of sleep, but I got 8 hours of sleep for the first time like last week. Like I think it was like 8.5, and I woke up so rejuvenated. That was like the first time I think I've done that in my adult life. It's like so since college. And I was like going through college and after college, like that's like the first time. So definitely just making sure that you are prioritizing that as well. Because literally if your body is tired, you can't do anything else. So yeah.
Thank you. So we can move on to the next question. Can y'all talk a little bit about what's been the most rewarding aspect of your career so far in social work?
I'll jump in. I have two examples, and they're very similar. I had mentioned the development of the Day Reporting Center in Marshall County, Alabama, and then I had mentioned the program I'm in now, the Healthcare for Reentry Veterans Program. Prior to me being in my current position, uh, it had been vacant for like I believe 3 years, the position. So there was no attention coming from the VA to incarcerated veterans uh, in from the Tennessee Valley healthcare system. So between the development of the Day Reporting Center, which still going on today, and the implementation of the HCRV program with the VA, there was two situations uh, where individuals went from their only helping professional contact was law enforcement, which is fine, which is it's just great, but that was their only helping professional contact to clinical contact or case management beyond the law enforcement side. So both of those situations, uh, attention, a population of need went from no attention to attention. So that was probably those have been some of the rewarding aspects. And then taking my oath of office was really awesome. That was a that was a really awesome feeling when I started with the VA.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Did anyone else want to talk about their most rewarding? Because we can also go into what was your biggest challenge that you faced so far. Feel free to answer both.
Okay, I'll go next. I think I have two as well, the most rewarding. Definitely the day that I went to Morehouse College and I partnered with the student organization there and they made the 300 toiletry kits. That was that was something because it was like 30 kids, 30 college students, and I just thought nobody was gonna come. Like I was so scared. But, like, it was so good, and they were all so sweet, and so that was really good, but then also, on the day that I delivered all of the toiletries and the toiletry kits and all the things, um, every place that I went to was like, "This was, like, perfect timing, we just ran out of XYZ," or, "We really need this," or, "We didn't know" because so I actually did it the week before, like, leading into Easter, so they were one of the shelters was like, "We didn't have anything to give the ladies for Easter, but we're gonna give them these bags," like, and it I was tore up. That was really great. And so definitely those two. And then the most challenging, um, I think the most challenging, um, managing my time as far as my Kennedy's Closet initiative has taken place, like outside of like actual business stuff, but like because I it's just a one woman show right now. It's just me. And so I have so many clothes. Like y'all have a storage unit. It's like it's ridiculous. Like but collecting them, sorting them, like that I have to really do well with my time management because I could be there for hours. hours on hours. My job, other things to do. Okay. But yeah, that's definitely been that. And then just kind of like really learning like just in general, like I think I said it before, but like what the vision is for real. Because although I'm collecting clothes, like I don't want like your coffee t-shirt from Starbucks where you used to work, you know? So really getting like to know myself and like what I want to do as far as that has been concerned. Because that has played a part in like even just collecting the clothes. Like now I have like a standard or like I have specifications, like all these things. So that's been kind of challenging, but yeah.
Thank you, Kennedy. Zac, do you have any about your like most rewarding or biggest challenges throughout your career?
I think like I don't know if I have like one exact thing or whatever, but I do going off of what Kennedy was saying, I do think a good thing is about managing expectations. I think that's good because I think maybe like new graduates have um I guess a vision of what is supposed to happen or what is supposed to what X, Y, or Z is supposed to look like when they actually go into the field. But I think the key thing that I feel like I had to learn or it was managing the expectations and especially meeting people, I guess, where they are at or kind of being open to where people are at, I think is a challenge because I think it's one thing to say it and it's another thing to do it. And I think like the so that's been a challenge. I do think that sometimes you have to negotiate your own comfort levels to meet somebody where they're at. And I think like the grace you have to extend to people even though you don't want to extend to people, it's a hard thing to do a lot of times. And so I think kind of letting your ego be put somewhere else in the moment, I think is super important. But when you actually start getting into the habit of doing it, you start to see that your abilities and um your skill increases, I think, and then that will be rewarding for you. So I do think like managing expectations will also like create boundaries, but that will feel rewarding over time.
Thank you so much, Zac. Um, for all of you, a lot of the students or a lot of the folks that will be watching this panel are probably going to be some of our social work students. So if you could go back and give advice to yourself as a social work student, what would you say?
I can start given that I think I'm the most recent grad. The I would just really say that you don't have to have it all figured out today. Like it's so much easier said than done. Like because you know you're stressing out about like, oh, I want to have a job lined up after I graduate. Like this is the field that I want to work in, this is the population I want to work with, all these things. It's okay. Like just breathe. Just breathe. Really take it day by day. It's really moment by moment. You know what I'm saying? It's okay if you don't have all of those next steps figured out. If you don't have your dream job lined up waiting for you after, you graduate or anything like that. Like it's fine. Like you're doing fine. Everything's fine. It's gonna be great, you know? And also giving yourself grace. I think that was a great point. He put it very nicely, or they put it very nicely, managing your expectations because we put so much pressure on ourselves to have everything figured out. And that's just not, unfortunately, the world that we live in at this point. Like, there was a time where, yes, you could graduate and have jobs lined up, and you probably still could, but it might be what you want. So it's like just giving yourself the grace and the room to grow. You're fine. It's great. Life is great. Just breathe.
Um, so I only have two more questions. So for whoever would like to answer, how has your definition of success changed since you started your career? I know we've all had some pivots. We've all kind of gone to a place that we didn't always know that we were going to go. So how has your definition specifically of success changed?
I can speak about it. I will say my advice, though, I'm going to answer the question, is, and I know people are not going to like this, but read. Read. You'll have time in your professional experience to be hands-on, to be whatever, but now is a good time to actually read. Like I think there's such this eagerness to go out and do something that you're forgetting that, you have to marinate a little bit. You have to simmer. Like your ideas have to do be played around with a little bit. And if you don't have any content, if you don't have any context to do that, then you're just going to be thrown out and actually not know what you're doing. So I would say read whatever you're assigned, but also read things that you actually care about. And then I guess success, I feel like, I think is very personal. I think people have different ideas of what success is. I do think we often become infatuated with certain ideas of success that we look at other people and we see, oh, success means X, Y, or Z. But of course, like we only experience the world from our own perspective, right? Like you can't inhabit somebody else's mind. And so we all are desiring having these fantasies about different things, but those fantasies and desires oftentimes are based off of what we think other people are doing, or other people, what we think other people want to achieve, or their ideas, and we're not actually doing what we want to do. And I think that's the key part, is that success is about what you want to do, right? Like it's not about what you see 40 other people trying to do. It's not about having this or that or this or whatever. It's about like, is this something I want to do? Yes or no? And if it is, then I'm going to do it. If it's not, then I'm not going to do it. But I think that internal like questioning of, do I care about this thing, or is it just something that it feels like I need to accomplish or do because society tells me that I need to do it? And I think questioning that piece of success is crucial, because I feel like if you don't, then you're just going to be chasing other people's dreams and not yours. And I think that's just a waste of time. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Zach. Um,
Um,
yeah, Brad, do you want
yeah,
to comment on success or advice for social work students?
a little bit of both, if that's okay. First, I want to comment on Zach's great advice as far as during this window of being a student, of taking the opportunity to read and educate yourself. But he also mentioned the eagerness to get out and serve, because I know I had that eagerness too. Uh, for those that have that eagerness, my recommendation is assess, and hone in your skills of assessments, because they're not where they need to be today. I guarantee they're not where they need to be, but they will get better and they will improve. And it has been one of the greatest values that you can take with you from entity to entity to agency is being a great assessor, and being able to provide those recommendations and that guidance. That would be my for those that are eager to get out. Assess, take any opportunity that you can to assess individuals and grow on your knowledge on behavior and mental health and people's circumstances. But in terms of success, Zach said it perfect. And for me, I'm 40 years old now. It has obviously evolved as I've grown, but as I've grown, the circumstances and the situations that I take into consideration have become more and more personal than what the world would see at the time, 22, 25 years old. So yeah, it's what my personal life looks like has dominated my vision of my personal success.
Thank you so much, Brad. Before we go into this last question, if there are any folks on the call that want to put questions of their own in the chat, please go ahead and do so as we go into this last section. So for my panelists, what excites you the most about the future of social work? We are in a time in our country, and so what's getting you excited? Because we need some excitement. Please be
Well,
exact.
for me, listening to Kennedy and listening to Zac uh, gets me really excited because I know in my role I can get into my silo of where I'm working on my program or working with my veterans or my clients, and I don't get some opportunities to see other social workers in their journey of development. Some of my work is with other social workers that are also in their silos. Uh, so that's really exciting to me. I'm excited that I'm not scared of AI. I'm not worried about that at all. We are unique. We are powerful. Um, we are game changers. We are chameleons in how we can work. Uh, we can bring value to agencies. Now the value has to be demonstrated. We have to demonstrate the value. Anybody can point out a problem, but not everyone can articulate a solution or a proposal, and that's where we come in.
We actually had a question specifically for Brad in the chat. So while you're up here, Brad, what could a student do to prepare themselves for a role as a social worker within the VA specifically?
Um, I man, personally, I didn't have a specific job or a specific target that I was looking at. Maybe, and I have a master's in public administration, so potentially further your education in that path. But I, I hate to be so informal, but apply, get your foot in the door, get in, apply more than once, get denied and apply again. Uh, uh, Internships, especially with VA, from my understanding, are really popular. Uh, internships with DHR for all the I don't know, any negative comments or connotations. DHR is a wonderful social work experience, an absolutely wonderful baptism, so to speak, for our Southerners here of getting into the social work experience, walking into a vulnerable person's home. It's a great baseline. So I can't really think of one specific path or recommendation as far as getting into government work, other than uh, just applying, get your foot in the door, get experiences, and then when you get there, assess.
Thank you so much, Brad. Does anyone else want to talk about their excitement for the future of social work?
I think social work is exciting. I do think that social work is in a great position. I think in like academics, or I guess like in considering what to do after college, I think it's actually very good, because I think people um, are, I guess, like underestimate how much that employers or people or agencies like interdisciplinary work, and especially if there's like on the ground type work. I think a lot of people like things when it's like direct experience, when these kind of things. So I do think there's a lot of good future for what's happening. I also, in terms of like, just despite like everything going on, I do think that um, there's a reason why people are doing what they're doing. I mean, there's a reason why we feel compelled to be in the situations that we want to be in as social workers. I think if we didn't, I mean, that's the fuel, right? So I think to maybe reflect on, why is it that we are even doing what we want to do, and how can we convey that through the work that we do, that like, hey, if we are put ourselves and are vulnerable in these situations, then people who are very nihilist, who don't think that there's a future or whatever, if we can demonstrate that by saying like, hey, we're gonna put our efforts into doing something that may not have the the biggest recognition or whatever, then I do think that's a good example for people to not just like other people or like our peers, but also clients, everybody else, that people can do what they want to do. People that there is hope that, we can work in such a way that we channel our empathy towards helping people, and by people seeing that from us, they get the same thing. So I think it's social work is interesting because it's very much it's modeling behavior, and you want to model behavior for what you want to see. And I think social work is a really good position to do that.
Thank you so much, Zach. We actually had a question in the chat too. So I know Zach and Kennedy, you both had experiences in DC. So can you give any advice or any thoughts about doing social work in DC as an internship program, and what that kind of was like for you?
Yeah, I lived for DC. That was my that was my jam. It was so fun. And I had one, oh, I wanted it so bad. Like in undergrad, I actually got it in undergrad, but I didn't do it. So in graduate school, it had to happen. But it was absolutely amazing. I worked in Congresswoman Terry Sewell's office, and that was phenomenal. I think, honestly, my favorite part of my internship outside of just being in DC, because I love that city, um, I have two favorite parts. One of my favorite parts was Congresswoman Terry Sewell. The majority of her staff is Black. And so being on the Hill, but being in that environment with people that obviously the majority of people don't look like me, but having that safe space in her office specifically where we all like felt like we were in Alabama, even though I'm from Atlanta. But like, like it's like it wasn't like I didn't have to work too hard in her office. Obviously be professional, obviously all those things. But the things that, I've had to experience as a Black woman, like had to change like about myself or, make sure I didn't act a certain way. I didn't have to do that in her office, and it was so great. Like it was amazing. We would go to the briefings, and it's kind of like funny, but we would go to like the briefings for all of the committees that she sits on. We would be the only Black interns in there, so they would know who we were for. But it was cool because it was like we would come back to the office and be able to talk about it in a safe space where we didn't feel like we had to be so like on quote unquote, with each other. So that was great. But then also I think having that experience like on the other side of that, like being the only Black people in rooms like that, such important rooms, was also just amazing for me to see because I don't think that I ever really imagined myself in settings like that. I don't know if it's because it's not like I didn't see that. Like I literally went to Barack Obama's inauguration. But I think it's just different being in the room, like in the room where it happens. I love Hamilton. Um, it was like a once in a lifetime experience that I will just never forget. Like walking to work every day, going to the Capitol. Who does that? Like that is so crazy. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about our social work program, that they do offer that experience to students, because I don't feel like I don't, that's another area of social work that I don't feel like really is talked about as much, when honestly a social worker is probably the most important person in a room like that, because that's the person that is considering everybody, like how everybody is affected, not just one specific group of people, but like we're considering all factors involved, not just leaning towards the side of people that like would benefit from whatever that is being talked about. So that was really great getting that exposure. And any advice I have for them entering the program, live it up. Okay. It's like once in a lifetime. You're not gonna ever have that experience again. Like you're gonna be with your cohort. It's gonna be great. You're gonna have class in DC. Like you're gonna go to all these museums, learn all these different things. Like just get to see social work in a completely new setting. I think, especially like if you have only been in a place like Alabama or like in the South in general, living there and seeing social workers in action at those different agencies, it's like heaven. I love it. That's why I wanted to go back. Yeah.
Thank
I
you so much,
I
Kennedy.
will say, I didn't I know the question wasn't for me, but I also interned for Terry Sewell for 2 summers, one in Montgomery and one in DC, but not with the program, I guess, not with the MSW program. I think I was just on my own. But yeah, I agree with Kennedy about everything. I do think like Terry Sewell's like a really great person to work for. I don't know what the internship is. Um, for that person. But I do think, like, I agree. I think, and just like seeing someone who typically, I mean, I clearly am white, so seeing someone typically who is underrepresented in spaces, especially in something as Congress, I think, and especially seeing Congresswoman Terry Sewell, the confidence she has and um the um the knowledge that she has, the connection she has, and like the respect that she brings, I think is phenomenal. And I think her staff as well. So yeah, I agree. If you do get a chance, if you're even in DC, I think it's even a good idea to try to meet with the staff there, anyway, because I think it's a valuable experience, if you're just visiting too.
Thank you both so much. Thank you all to my panelists, Brad, Kennedy, Zach. I think this has been a wonderful session, and I really hope all of our viewers got some knowledge from it. It will be posted on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and refer to it. But yeah, thank you all again. It's been a really lovely afternoon speaking with you all. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll Tide.